Kelly Moore Paints, gone now. Along with the 700 employees that worked there that had nothing to do with any of this stuff. I heard some of these stories back when they had a paint store in Riverside. I used to buy paint from them when I was up north sometimes. So I still have one of the wet paint signs I got from them back then. Hadn't bought anything in 5 years from them because of the pandemic and all that. So a lot of my work canceled up there or just hasn't been going on. So I just recently found out from a local that lives up there that Kelly Moore Paints is now gone. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I know about it. And maybe I'll be right, maybe I won't be right. You can look this up for yourself. But I'm going to try to explain this to the best of my knowledge, how I remember it. First, I'm going to go ahead and explain to you some of the things I used to buy from Kelly Moore. I used to like their Annie Oakley brush. Anybody know about that one? They used to have like gunfighter names for their brushes, and I used to like those. They were a little bit soft bristled, and they were great for interior. And there was a few others. I forget the other names of them. But they had those. If you guys bought those, we can comment that below. Be sure to like the video as well and make a comment if you really want this video to go somewhere. Then it'll make the content so that YouTube has to share it with other people. Liking videos and making comments, and when it gets enough of that, YouTube has no choice. The algorithm just starts to bring it up. But yeah, so I went to Kelly Moore when they used to have one in Riverside. I used to buy paint from them. It was the last store in the Southern California, and it was from the same issue, I believe, back in the 80s and 90s. They had to close a lot of their locations down here to pay for lawsuits. And the funny thing is I'll tell you a little bit about this stuff. The lawsuits happened from they were making drywall mud or something like that. I think it was drywall mud and spackle. Okay, and they were using chemicals that the chemical company provided to them, and apparently they didn't either research it enough or didn't know that there was asbestos in it. And a lot of this asbestos stuff started in the early 70s, and this might have been in the 60s when they had these asbestos being used in spackle, and there wasn't really anybody aware that it was in that. And apparently the chemists and stuff, they say, didn't know that the chemicals they had spackle in them because they weren't properly told by the company that provided them the chemicals. And guess what? The company that provided them the chemicals, they're still in business. So, that's kind of like taking the end user, kind of like the loan situation we had, where all the companies that were making these terrible loans from the 2000s and packaging up and selling them didn't have any jail time, but the loan officer is who they went after on that. And they say that well, now if you write loans that go bad, it's kind of like that go bad, then you're responsible, versus the person who made these things and made them available to people. They had no responsibility. So the big companies got away with it probably because they padded pockets of politicians, and politicians, get into that crap, So, and they act like, oh, well, we're trying to help the people. Bull crap. You guys are a bunch of liars. It's kind of like if you had a car that you manufactured, okay, that knowingly killed people that drove it, and people came to you as a salesman and said, I want that car, okay, and you sold it to them, but yet you went to jail as a salesman, but the manufacturer who made the car didn't have any penalty. Does that make sense? It doesn't to me. So anyway, they had some issues with mesothelioma, and I have no bad things to say about the people. I understand people needed to get compensated for that. Did they need to get rich? When you get mesothelioma, you die, and you're no longer on this earth. I mean, how much money are you going to need? Well, you need to pay for your medical bills, and then your family's left without you. So, of course, they're going to need to compensate you for your income. But what they do is they want to make the company pay. They're going to pay for this. And this mentality is what's hurting this country. It cost 700 people their jobs that had nothing to do with this. I mean, this was from the 60s. So anyway, let's talk about one of the cases. One person sued because they used the material back in the 60s. And I think I remember hearing about this at Kelly Moore in Riverside. One of the salesmen there was telling me about it, who's long been dead. But it happened. They got mesothelioma and they sued and won $15 million. I want you to think about something, you guys. I mean, yeah, it's a death sentence. It's terrible. What really made people aware of this was Steve McQueen. When Steve McQueen died, it was everywhere. The media was on it. Everybody, it became a big deal. So now everybody knew that this was such a horrible thing, because we didn't want to lose Steve McQueen. We had no choice. Once he got it, you're done. It's a death sentence. Extremely bad cancer. And the funny thing is some people can breathe the stuff. From what I understand, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I believe that some people have almost like an immunity to it, but some people will get it. They can just get one spore of asbestos in their lungs and they will get it eventually. But it takes like 20 years for it to take effect. So it's really hard to know, where you got it from. And of course, since Kelly Moore had this product that was known about and one lawsuit was won, of course, everybody wants to go to the tap and tap them. I mean, $15 million, you guys. I mean, back in the 80s, that was enough money to be rich, okay? Should you be rich because a company made a mistake, okay? How much penalty should they pay? I think it's just out of control. And it doesn't happen in Europe. You guys from Europe, you can talk about this in the comment below. But as far as I know, this kind of thing doesn't even happen over there. But here, everybody thinks, oh, wow, I'm going to get all my money. I'm going to become rich. And guess who didn't become rich? The person who died. They didn't become rich. They died. But the family becomes rich. It just doesn't make sense to me. And meanwhile, a company that was making good materials goes under. And now the remaining people aren't going to get any money. So all the taps all took out all their money. Apparently, they had paid out $600 million in lawsuits. And they had another $140 million that they expected to have to pay out, and the company just wasn't making enough money to pay all those things out. They're basically, like I said, the people who were probably responsible for this, the people that should need to pay, they are gone. They might be dead. The people that worked for them in the 60s. I mean, it just, at some point, yeah, it's tragic. Yeah, a lot of people died from mesothelioma. And a lot of people, they didn't know about it in the beginning. And then they found out because it takes 20 years for this stuff to like grow inside of you for you to know. I mean, I did breaks and stuff like that back when I was younger. 20 years ago, I could get mesothelioma and die because I was around this stuff, okay? And a lot of us were, and nobody knows who it's going to be, okay? What is proper compensation? $15 million in the 80s? Some people are getting way more than that now. And, it just becomes, like, oh, we're going to make them all pay because they did this thing or whatever. And maybe they didn't even really know that much. And there was like 20% of the stuff was 20% asbestos in the product, and they didn't know it was in there. Apparently, if you read about it, they did file a lawsuit or whatever to stop this stuff because they said they didn't know, and maybe they didn't, maybe they did. I don't know. But at what point do you realize that all you're going to do is make all the family rich because the person died? It's tragic. Very bad. Maybe they should get compensated for the loss of income for that person, but should they become rich over it? $15 million in 1980. $15 million after you paid your lawyer. Let's say you paid your lawyer a third of that. Okay, $10 million could easily pay for all your hospital bills and make the family absolutely wealthy. Okay, is that necessary? Are those the type of lawsuits that we should be having in the world? It's just entitlements to me. It's just entitlements. Yeah, it's tragic. The person died, and it could happen to any one of us. We could have been exposed to asbestos when you're younger. I mean, I've done stuff with the asbestos, and been around it, and we didn't know how bad it was from the 60s and 70s. Well, we're entitled to be rich forever. Our family's entitled to be rich. We're gone. All right. It happened, so it just, at what point do we think that it's great? That's a good thing to do. Put those companies out of business. There goes Kelly Moore. Gone. Another paint company gone. We've already lost. I mean, once you think about it, in California, we had, all these paint companies. There was tons of them. Sinclair, there was Pittsburgh Paints, there was all these companies, and almost every single one of them got absorbed to like one of the giants, like PPG, Frazee, gone to, absorbed to Sherwin-Williams. All these big companies are taking over, yet, the smaller companies like Kelly Moore and Vista Paint. The good thing about this happening is it got room now. I think Vista Paint has 2 or 3. They have one at Antioch and 2 other cities in the Bay Area. They have stores there now. So if you're wondering where to get paint, and maybe you're just going, all there is Dunn Edwards. Well, there is Vista now. So you can get Vista products up there. But, it's just these frivolous, or maybe it wasn't totally frivolous, but some of these lawsuits where the lawyers are just prodding people to get more money because they want to get rich. Society, do we really need this kind of thing? Do we need these companies to pay? This mentality that is being put into people's heads by the governments in California, make the company pay, is getting people to think, well, God, all these companies are getting rich. Maybe I should just go take some stuff from the store. Maybe I should just go in and take something from them because they're rich. They got a lot of the money, and then they just close. This is what's happening. This is what's happening there. This is what's happening in the paint world. It's a shame. Tell me your comments. Make sure you like the video. Don't forget to do those things. And tell me what you guys, share your thoughts down there. Talk to you guys in the next one. Please like, share, and subscribe.